Welcome to Road to Billions Podcast, the mentality of an entrepreneur. With your host, Moise Bertrand.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is your host, Moise Bertrand, the Road to Billions Podcast. I just want to let you guys know you got to keep working. You got to keep working. You got to keep checking on the progress that you're making. If you hear the background right now, I'm actually just on my way, down to just go see my rehab projects, just to figure out what's going on. So I'm outside right now, just, speaking on my podcast mic, of course, my phone, but just getting ready to load my car up. But I just want to let you guys know as well, on top of that, to always double check prices, right? So for all my new listeners, I just want to say this is the podcast for entrepreneurship. This is the podcast for highly intellectual conversations and knowledge. And for my old listeners, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for returning, for listening, for keeping the motive in your life going, because you want to be successful and you listen to me and you understand the grind is not easy. You feel me? But it's possible. And if I could do it, you could do it. So double check the prices, right? And what do I mean by that? So for instance, I had a situation recently where I was getting some insurance quotes, right? And I'm not going to make this podcast fairly long because I do got to hit the road, you guys, but I am going to give you guys the instance of everything. So I did have some insurance quotes that I wanted to go ahead and double check. And for whatever reason, I got 3 different quotes, but they were drastically different from each other, right? And for the first quote, it kind of put me in a situation where I was forced to lose a lot of time debating, right? I was forced to lose a lot of time figuring out, is this something I still want to continue with, this purchase of this property, this refinance of this property? And it caused a lot of havoc, right? It caused a lot of despair, sleepless nights, right? Because I was in the midst of about the refinance, but the insurance was so damn high, it was going to put me underwater, meaning the mortgage was going to be a lot more higher than my profit. I was not going to make no profit. Profit was going to be literally $10 or something like that, and I was going to be stuck with this thing for 30 years. So I couldn't make a decision based off emotion. I had to make a decision based off logic. So what did I do? I went ahead and started looking at elsewhere for some other insurance companies. I never did this before in a short amount of time, because I usually have all my eggs lined up. You get me? But you might be like, okay, Moise, why did it take so long for you to catch what this insurance was going to be? Well, when I first had this property, the insurance was a lot lower. But for whatever reason, the insurance rates went crazy high, right? Because it needed flood insurance, which I already had. But when you refinance it now, they're saying, hey, listen, this is going to be the new policy. So we're like, this was just the old policy. And they changed my policy 4 times in 3 days. So it went from me paying $300 a month, which was still crazy high, right, to $700, and I'm looking at it change on my computer. I'm refreshing the shit. I'm like, what the is going on? You feel me? Then I see the shit go to $950. I'm like, oh, they playing games, right? They playing games. Then what really did me in was they ended up changing it one last time and told us this the best we could do for a bundle deal, $1,100. So we told them, no, thank you, come again. So I left, right? Left and went somewhere else, went to go start calling some places, which I really don't like doing, you guys. I'm going to keep it real. I don't like doing that part. I don't like going on Google and, I like giving people business, don't get me wrong. But I like to keep the same order of business, and I'm learning a lot in real estate. You can't keep the same people you work with business with. It's impossible sometimes, I feel like you could work with somebody in 20 years, but you still have to have another circle of people you work with. You always have to have different options. You always have you don't want to rely on one source. And that's everything in life. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And unfortunately, I did in this situation. And I felt like I was blindsided, right? Because I woke up and I just seen this crazy email that I got to pay this crazy policy amount. So I was definitely taken back about a lot. So with that being said, I didn't really think about anything else, right? I thought about the best case scenario, which was I'm gonna find me a new insurance policy in less than 2.5 weeks, you guys, and I'm gonna go ahead and get a better quote. and everything's gonna be cool. So the second policy I got was a lot less cheaper, right? A lot less cheaper. They was coming in at $3,000. So the first one came in at $10,000. Yeah, that was crazy. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to make no money. You get me? But that's not their responsibility. Their responsibility is to get me the insurance and just to have me bind it and sign it, and they're just getting their pay. You feel me? They're not worried about if I'm making money or not. But at the end of the day, so I had to make a decision to say, let me find another policy. So I went ahead and did. So this other policy was a little bit more decent. You get me? Don't get me wrong. It was still more hefty and stuff, because $3,000 per year is still a lot for insurance, depending on where you are. So when I had this in mind, this policy, I'm like, okay, cool, we good to go. You know, I'm cool with this one. But I'm like, I still feel like I could do better. But I didn't think that too much, because I'm like, this policy still made a good cash flow for me. You know, it's definitely a $7,000 difference between the first one, and I wasn't gonna be. I'm sorry, you guys. It's like I told you guys, I'm outside right now. I like to be out on the porch, but if I load up my car and slide. But yeah, that new policy was crazy, man. That new policy was crazy. So I'm at $3,000 now. So I'm thinking to myself, this policy isn't too bad. But guess what, you guys? Right before I signed, they say, hey, we're missing flood insurance. We all started laughing. I laughed, right? And you might be like, okay, how did we get the new policy to agree and almost with the mortgage? So the mortgage company overseen the flood insurance. They didn't see the flood insurance on the actual on the binding agreement, right? They didn't see it on the docs. They only seen the general liability and everything else that was needed to be on it, like the dwelling unit, price, coverage, and all that other good stuff, and the general liability. So they didn't see the flood insurance that was missing until the underwriter caught it, which is cool, because that still caused a lot of problems, you know, later down the line. So what happens is, when we eventually got that back, I'm like, okay, well, what do we do now? Well, they were like, we got to find another policy. So I'm like, okay, cool. How much more would that policy be? Because I'm still clearing $300. So I need something at least to go ahead and give me that, you know, something around that range. I could take a little hit on that because it's a single family. It's not no quad. And that's what I want to tell you guys in the next episode I'm going to have. You got to judge your house by the unit to have. You can't really judge your house by the square footage or anything and the location sometimes, just because you might be clearing a lot, but then you have insurance that eats into your money, right? And this is one of the reasons I try to tell you guys, is do your research. And this isn't a bad deal or anything on my half. Like I'm telling you guys, this is still a great deal in my eyes, because I still have potential to update this property to the fullest extent. But what I'm telling you is, sometimes you're not going to be able to make that much money on a property at all if you don't have any type of experience finding new policies, asking the right questions, and doing the right things, right? So let me get back to it before I leave. So you get this new policy, and they're saying we're missing flood insurance. I said, how much more would it be? They said, we wouldn't know, because we don't carry flood insurance. So they don't carry flood insurance per se. So I'm like, okay, so what are you guys going to do? They said, well, we're going to reach out to some new carriers in the area and see exactly if they could give us a policy, and we could attach it and then make one policy. I'm saying, okay, cool. So we got that going, and all of a sudden, boom. They're talking about the new flood insurance policy is $2,500. Additionally on that 31. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, you guys are playing. So now we're 1 week down from my maturity date. So I'm over here running around thinking to myself, I'm like, I got a game plan, because I'm not the person who is going to come take an L like this. You feel me? Now the cash flow is horrible again. So I'm back at square one where I was at the first time. So I'm like, okay, boys, my maturity date ends a week. I didn't file the extension. What am I going to do? Do I pull the trigger on the extension and pay additional $1,500 to $2,000 and stuff like that, depending on what it was going to be on his home, just to extend it for another 3 months? Or should I just gamble and wait until the closest day and then still pull it off, right? Because the title agency, they understand what's going on. They understand that all I'm missing is insurance. So they want me to work with the loan and lender, but the lender is telling me, well, if you want to, you got to go ahead and extend the extension first before we even make any exceptions, because that will just let us know if you're serious or not. So I'm like, that's $1,500, between $2,000 left. I don't really know if I want to spend that right now. So I'm like, but that could cost me a whole problem, a deficit, a default on the loan. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to find me a new insurance company. And if I don't find it within 4 days, I'm going to go ahead and just pay it, whatever. And I'm just going to, take it on the chin, whatever. And then all of a sudden, I found this guy who I was recommended to from a realtor that gave me the sauce. He gave me the policy that I needed to complete the whole deal in its entirety. It came out of thin air. I reached out to a few realtors just to ask them, hey, what insurance companies do your new buyers use? And they gave me the rundown. They was like, hey, use this person, use that person. I'm going to walk inside a little bit, you guys. I'm sorry. Use this person, use that person. So I'm over here realizing the best thing I could do is work towards making this a real thing, making this a real policy, getting it done. So when he said, yeah, I could take care of it, bro, I got everything you need right here, I'm like, oh shit, this is really God. Like, God really sent somebody in to answer my prayers, because I was literally stressing God, saying, listen, I need you to come through. Like, you always come through, so you can't set me up like this. You get me? So this guy ended up giving me the whole rundown on how his policies work. It was great. Everything aligned with the with the lender to their approval, with their requirements. Everything looks good. And I asked him, I'm like, why is it so expensive elsewhere and for you it's so cheap? He was like, well, we have a vendor's market, and depending on how much they charge you, you give me on insurance, they make on that. They make that based off affiliate marketing, based off referrals. So they sell you in packages, and they could sell you a lot higher. But sometimes the insurance companies don't have nothing to do with the lender. That's what I'm not trying to tell you. The insurance companies, they sell it to another insurance company sometimes, and you might see another insurance company name on the actual insurance company. Like, it might say, you might go through something like, let's just say NRIG, right? That's an insurance company. But maybe with NRIG, they might have another company that insures you for flood insurance by itself, and NRIG may not cover yourself, if that makes sense. Like, they might be like, okay, NRIG is your overall policy. You'll call them, you feel me, just to go ahead and get your situation solved. But then they might end up calling their flood insurance department, which is a whole nother company that actually will take care of your claim in case, if that makes sense. So what that happens is, you got to be able to find someone who's not going to only find you great rates on each insurance company that you come across, because you don't want to be getting charged no arm and no leg. You get me? And especially if it doesn't have it like all in one umbrella, which I would just pretty much say is an umbrella insurance company, which I love, because you don't have to go ahead and do your own research on other companies, and you don't got to go ahead and start attaching them together, and you don't got to be having your cash flow messed up, because insurance companies will have to look for other carriers, like I mentioned before. So when you have these umbrella insurance companies, it makes it easier for you just to have everything under one roof. And I tell people, always do your research. You get me? People just want to get into real estate just because it sounds good. I'm like, bro, listen, I had probably the worst anxiety in the last 3-4 months dealing with this deal. This is real shit. People going to tell you, yeah, I'm doing all this money in real estate, but they're not going to tell you the amount of money you could potentially lose in the blink of an eye if you don't make the right decision, right? And this is what I tell people. You want to get into real estate for the right reasons. What do you want to get into this for? Because if you feel like your life could be over in the blink of an eye, that's what's going to happen, right? But you got to believe that everything's going to work itself out. And that's why I mentor people on, right? I mentor my mentees on. I mentor those who I want to see great, in their education, in their career. And because I let them know, listen, the mentality of an entrepreneur isn't to hustle, all this hustling and stuff. It's to really get to the top of their character, of their capabilities, of their performance, right? How far could I take this shit? We don't care about the money, because the money is going to come regardless when you do what you love. And I tell people, critical thinking is one of the biggest things in real estate. That's how you see how far people get. So if you see somebody with a lot of houses and units, you're not thinking, oh, this person is just rich. This person also has a mentality of a shark. This person has a mentality of, I'm going to get it regardless. I'm going to get it one way or the other. And these insurance companies, I'm not being funny, but they'll do that to you. You know, they'll eat you up and spit you right out. And you won't even know what you just got yourself into if you don't do your research. So once again, guys, do your research, do your research, do your research. And everything that works out in real estate, know that it works out the way it's supposed to work out, if that makes sense. Exhaust all your options. I have an episode called Exhaust All Your Options. People may not understand, but once you exhaust all your options, I believe, you feel me? I believe in God, so I don't know what religion you guys obviously believe in, but, you know, I know you believe in a higher power. But believing that things are going to work out because you put all your effort into it is eventually going to have everything work out. It's not until you're on your last dollar you might mess around and hit the lottery. You get me? You might get a huge client that want to pay you a big deposit, and you can use that deposit to do something you really want to do with that money. You know, just have it, you know, transfer to other things. And, you know, obviously that money is now giving a service to that client because you got paid, you feel good about yourself, you're back on your grind. And these things just take effect, you get me? But you had to go through the struggle. You had to go through the tribulations. You had to go through the not seeing it through, but you seeing it through. You get me? So once again, you guys, check your rates, check your prices, do everything you can. You give me this to believe that even though you get into a deal, right, the deal isn't supposed to make you a shit ton of money, right? This is why you have portfolios. This is why you have single families. This is why you have quads. This is why you have units, because these are in volumes. So you scale things up and you make more money based off what? Volume. So the more you sell, the more you make. The more you fill up, the more you make. So you compare that to real estate. The more houses you have, the more money you make. But that doesn't mean you're making a shit ton of money, because a person with a quad is making just as much money as a person with 3 houses. You get me? So if not more, if they have it all running for, okay, they can make, they're making as much money as all 3 of them houses almost. You get me? If you really want to think about it. So you got to think about how fast and how hard you want to work. You get me? How do you want to look at your life? Do you want to look at your life like you just want to get by? Or do you want to look at this like, how far could I take this shit? You get me? And I'm real determined when it comes to real estate. And I tell people, I'm the best person to work with. You get me? Because I understand my role. And my role is whatever is needed to be played at the time. And my role is just understanding that people may not understand how we all work together. You get me? But we all have skills to work together. You get me? So if we come together, eventually we will create greatness. We will create dynasties. And a lot of people, they don't understand that dynasties aren't built overnight. They're built over time. And you have to have a vision that other people don't see, because right now it could be you and just a few other people. And people are going to continuously look at you like, what are you doing? And you have to understand that this is what you're doing because this is what's going to shape you for the future. So once again, man, I appreciate you guys for listening to Road to Billions podcast. Once again, check your rates. Always don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, reach out to me. I'm always here to help and all that good stuff. Mentorship program, you're always going to get charged for it, but you're going to get the bag off of it as well. And also, man, if you have any increase, you feel me, about buying houses, about partnering, keep me posted as well, because I'm always looking to partner. I'm always looking to invest as well. So you guys let me know, and you guys keep doing good in your line of work. Thank you.